From the Alvin and Rosalie Sarachek studio, PBS Kansas presents Ageless Enthusiasm. Coming up on this episode of Ageless Enthusiasm, I visit with Dr. Rogers about beauty, intimacy, and wellness, beginning with hormone replacement therapy and its benefits as we age. I also check in with Dr. Mike Shuck on low testosterone and the treatments available. Plus, I find out how he stays at the top of his game using an old school recreational activity to stay in shape, skateboarding. I'm Mindy East. All that is coming up on this episode of Ageless Enthusiasm. I'm your host, Mindy East. Welcome to Ageless Enthusiasm. My guest is Dr. Ray Rogers of Medical Innovative Solutions for Beauty, Intimacy, and Wellness. Today we're going to be talking about hormone replacement therapy. Welcome, Dr. Rogers, and thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's just start off right away. Why don't you give us the definition of what is hormone replacement therapy?
Okay, first of all, let's look at what a hormone is. So hormones are molecules that are synthesized and secreted in specialized cells that are localized in our endocrine system. And this endocrine system that is producing and secreting these hormones, they secrete them throughout the entire body, various areas in the body, and they regulate all essential functions, mainly like your temperature, your growth, your reproduction, your aging, and your immune system. So that's really what hormones are. So hormone replacement therapy is just giving you back what your body is missing or declining on.
Wow. So all of these hormones just kind of kickstart during adolescence and puberty. And then as we age, they begin to wane. And as we enter our 50s, then they start to give
Decline.
us issues.
And even at some people at 35 to 40, usually by the age of 40, you'll start to see the levels declining, even if you're not experiencing symptoms yet.
So what are some of the symptoms that we might be looking for if our hormones are imbalanced?
Energy, lack of energy. People are fatigued. Then they'll start to realize that maybe they're a little bit of brain fog, they're sleeping, they may be a little bit moodier. They may have, their sex drive may not seem like it used to be. And then weight gain. A lot of the weight that people will begin to experience is usually around the abdominal and hip area.
So you're talking about both male and female.
Absolutely.
And you treat both male and females.
Correct.
For hormone optimization. Can you give us a definition between what is a normal range versus optimal range?
So normal is a relative term. So basically, if you look at the levels of hormones for an 80-year-old, they're low levels. That's what the lab has as normal, although that's probably only 20% of the level of a 30-year-old. So you don't want normal, you want optimal. And optimal is a vague term as well, but optimal really implies to what level of hormones that a person needs to make them look good, feel good, function well, and to have some degree of protection against diseases. And so the optimal level for you is going to be different than the one for me. So that's how we are able to individualize it. And the way that you get an optimal level is you understand the levels that people need for disease prevention, and you understand the levels that need to overcome for them to feel well. Meaning there's going to be different blocks along the way that people have, and you overcome those blocks. And when that person feels good and their levels look good and it's disease prevention and for healthy aging, then that's their level.
So I've heard you mention healthy aging and disease prevention, but I think there's a misconception. A lot of people think that hormones might not be a safe treatment measure. What do you say to that?
The reason they think that is because, really back in the 1960s, people didn't really know too much about hormones. They became really popular in the 90s, really popular about hormone replacement therapy. And then 2003, 2005, the study of WHI came out. and it just scared everyone because they said that, hey, these hormones, they increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, blood clots, and breast cancer. So people just stopped, and it was a big media deal. And even when they retracted to go back and say, hey, let's just only do the estrogen only arm, and actually the estrogen only arm showed benefits to all of that, but people were like, no, that's okay. When they really looked at the flaws in that study, there were a lot of flaws, and those were synthetic hormones. And so people extrapolate synthetic and bioidentical as if they're the same, and they're not.
They're not. Well, isn't a synthetic hormone like progesterone, wasn't that made out of pregnant horses' urine?
And no, that was the estrogen.
Estrogen.
Premarin.
Okay, so that's what our moms and grandmothers, that was their only option. So it was no wonder they were old nags, right?
Well, Premarin is actually a good drug. It's synthetic, but it's only 15% of estradiol. See, there is a difference between estrogen and estradiol. And so they tend to lump the hormones together and say they're the same. They're not. Estrogen is 15% estradiol and 85% everything else, the horse's urine and everything else. And it's 10 times stronger than estradiol. So it has different effects. However, after the first year of use, 1 year of use of Premarin, then all those different risks that they quoted came back down to the normal relative risk size for even with the bioidentical estradiol hormone. But it was the progestin. See, it's really, the class is progestogens. So within the progestogens, you have progestins, which are the synthetics, which is the medroxyprogesterone or the Provera, and then you have progesterone. They're totally two different hormones. Things. They function totally different, but people lump them together as if they're the same.
Well, I'm on hormone replacement therapy, and it affects skin, hair, nails, posture, libido, beauty.
It's comprehensive.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what are some of the benefits of hormone replacement therapy?
Well, we use the bioidentical hormones. So we use them off-label, not standard of care, but we use them for relief of symptoms. Many people will have symptoms of hot flashes, mood swings, night sweats. They can't lose weight. Their hair is thinning. They're fatigued. So those are some of the relief of symptoms, but we also use them for disease prevention. And there's certain levels that you can achieve that will actually, in women and in men, will reverse plaque in the heart and in the arteries, which is huge. Certain levels that are for the prevention of breast cancer. People don't understand that as well. And help you to burn fat, build muscle, cognition, just vitality.
Skin, hair, nails,
posture.
Skin, hair,
nails, posture, all of it, libido.
What do you say to somebody who says, I want to do it naturally?
With aging, hormones decline. And with that, you also get a decline in your capabilities for mentally and physical, you see. So the deterioration that happens, that's present with the aging, the normal aging process, is going to result in osteoporosis, coronary artery disease, muscle wasting, depression, sleep disorders, mood disorders, and then kind of a isolation in terms of being sociable and that. That's what happens with the normal aging process, and that is normal. So you will age, you will have those things that occur, and you just won't feel well. But it doesn't have to be like that anymore, because if you restore hormones to where you were youthful, then many people will see that it improved the symptoms and signs that people have been attributing to aging.
Wow. Now, in your industry, tell us a little bit about the beauty and the intimacy and the wellness options as far as services. Can you explain those?
Yes. So there's really been some new exciting services that are available, especially for the beauty. We're all used to the Botox and the fillers and that, but we have this new entity where you're using your own blood. So you take the person's blood, you spin it down in a centrifuge, use it in an FDA-approved kit, and you can put the blood back, the growth factors back into wherever you want to restore. So you can do it hair restoration, the face, the breast. We even use it for regeneration of the cells in the genital organs for both the men and the women, for establishing intimacy and helping correct incontinence and things like that.
Wow.
So that's the beauty part. They just have quite a bit of things that are out there. And then regenerative proteins and regenerative medicine. all aimed at cellular efficiency, which is at a root level.
And I understand there are also some treatments for things like Peyronie's disease or to help enhance sexual pleasure.
Absolutely.
In your industry, can you mention those a little bit?
So one of them is really a low intensity shockwave therapy, which actually the high intensity shockwave therapy is what they use for the kidney stones.
Okay.
But this is a low intensity shockwave therapy, and what it does is it breaks up the plaques in the genital organs, because really, what's really happening when we age? Hormone levels go down, some of our enzymes go down, nitric oxide that produces blood flow everywhere, so you get plaque in that, and so you're breaking up the plaque, reestablishing the blood flow, opening back the arteries in that, and Peyronie's, you have plaque buildup that breaks that down. So you're reestablishing blood flow and oxygenation to all the systems, and you have that available to increase intimacy in both men and women. It's the Gainswave procedure is what it's called in men, and it's the FemiWave in women.
And I think some people might recognize Peyronie's disease as the bent carrot disease.
That's
it's
correct.
One way if you watch television.
And you also can use the low intensity shockwave therapy to try to break up that plaque, while you also infuse platelet-rich plasma, what we call a priapus shot, to regenerate new cells, the new baby cells, to regenerate that and see if you can overcome those older senescent cells that are just not doing anything but just degrading and causing really the disease process.
Wow, that's a lot of interesting information.
It's great information, and the exciting part about it is that we have therapies now today that can be individualized to people. We didn't have that before.
And now we'll hear from another medical professional on that same topic. And now we're joined by Dr. Mike Shuck, who's going to fill us in on all things about male hormones and how they decline as we age over 50. Hi, Mike.
Hi,
Thanks for joining us.
You bet.
So there's so many changes that do occur in all of our bodies as we get over 50, but I know with men, a lot of those seem to be very accelerated due to low testosterone levels.
Low T occurs. People think it's a natural disorder that occurs as we age, as we begin to age. And in some instances, it's not. We're seeing more of low testosterone levels today in men who are aging than ever in the past. People are complaining, men are complaining of less vitality, less vigor, less muscle strength, and other problems such as sexual dysfunction. And this has not occurred in the past as far as it's been studied since the 1940s.
Well, hasn't sperm counts, haven't they been waning as well? And what is the cause for all this?
Sperm counts have declined over the last 40 years. And the answer is nobody seems to know.
Could it be diet?
It could easily be diet because of the many high saturated fats that we consume today in our diet that weren't consumed years ago. But the most suspected reasons right now is sedentary lifestyles, eating far too many processed foods, and the stress that we undergo in a modern Western culture.
Is there anything that can be done? What about over-the-counter supplements?
Millions of dollars of over-the-counter supplements are being sold, and they don't help at all. They don't work. It is pseudoscience.
Wow. That's a huge shock probably to a lot of people that are just wondering if this is part of the aging process. And now you're saying that it could be environmental and dietary and sedentary.
In the past, people worked physically very hard. They had a need for using muscles, and to keep muscles there and from losing them, the body was stimulated all the time to continue to make testosterone at the necessary levels.
And because of muscle mass is correlated directly to testosterone levels, what you're saying is because most people are sitting at a desk job, they go home at night and watch TV, they are not doing anything to really support the natural production of their testosterone levels, correct?
That is correct.
And then what? Throw in alcohol, junk food, smoking. What are some of the other things that they are doing that they could do without?
Well, high saturated fat diets are destructive to the endothelial lining of your arteries.
Okay, well, for those of us who don't understand that big word, what is a high saturated fat diet as far as what's that hiding in that we're ingesting on a regular basis?
Processed foods today are injected with saturated fats, being beef tallows and pork fats.
Is that for taste?
It is for taste because we have an addiction to salt, sugar, and saturated fats in our modern Western culture.
Oh my goodness, I know. If you look at a photo from the 1970s, before they started to supersize portion sizes,
Correct.
people were, they were shrink wrapped.
Yes.
And now it's almost like it's a losing battle. What do you recommend for somebody who's having some of these symptoms that you've discussed?
Well, first of all, when they're serious enough, encourage them to come see the doctor. And from the get-go, we decide, is this lifestyle or is there a family history? And when did it start? What is their age? What is their lifestyle? And if you have a sedentary lifestyle and your patient is quite obese or over a BMI of greater than 30 to 35, then this causes a decrease in testosterone levels because the body is not going to produce more testosterone if it's not needed. The body is very efficient.
Okay, I know there's a correlation between cholesterol and testosterone production, right?
That is correct.
And I want to circle back. You mentioned go to your doctor. What if your doctor's old school and not everyone is as educated and knowledgeable about this as you are? And what if your family doctor tells you, oh, don't pay attention to that. That's nothing to worry about. Why is that?
There is a stigma against the use of testosterone in your patients. Back in the early 1990s, there was a big blowout in the world of professional baseball. And
I remember.
For those players, certain players, to have incredible performance, they had in their own minds to use exogenous testosterone, which had been mostly injected.
But wasn't that like an anabolic steroid?
It is. Testosterone is.
So, but that's not what you would prescribe to someone.
That's the myth. And the myth is that if you're going to the doctor for testosterone, that you're going to look like the Hulk in about 3 weeks. Well, that's not the idea. The idea is if you're losing muscle, you're losing strength, you're at risk for losing calcium out of your bones. And high-fat diets, which are full of cholesterol, defeat part of the urge of the human body to make more testosterone for this reason. The testosterone molecule is based on the cholesterol molecule. When you look at the structure of those molecules, they're very similar, and it's very similar. Testosterone molecule is very similar to estrogen as well. And it works in the whole formula. So when you go to your doctor and you say, sexual dysfunction, loss of muscle, concentration and such.
Low energy.
Very low energy. Then the first thing the doctor does is he will do blood tests looking for anemias, diabetes, high cholesterol, and those are reasons which would cause low testosterone. They don't even begin talking about supplementation through creams, through pellets, and through shots until later, until they determine what is the cost, what is the cause. And so what we do is we encourage, okay, you need to lose 50, 60, 70 pounds. We give them a diet that's controversial because it has fresh fruits, vegetables, low saturated fat protein meats, and you need to get out and walk and start weightlifting.
Go figure.
So that's where you start, is work it without wanting to use any type of exogenous testosterone.
So you mentioned the correlation between cholesterol and testosterone. What about a patient that's taking a statin? Does that affect their progress?
It does not. They've found out that it does not affect their progress on a statin. And the old research showed that it did, but that research has been shown, those studies are shown to not be complete or adequate and no longer relevant.
So let me ask you this. I've known you for a while, and you really walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yeah.
And you yourself have lost some weight
Yes.
through some physical activities
Yes.
and hobbies. So tell us a little bit about that transformation and what you did to implement those changes in your life.
I went through a stressful period of my life, and I treated that by eating large amounts of very bad food. And fortunately found the right people who were registered dietitians and brilliant and aggressive and assertive. And they helped me walk the walk, and I lost 90 pounds. And I've kept it off for 22 years.
Wow.
I did that with diet. And I found 2 registered dietitians, master degreed, who were just as assertive as could be. And they took me under their wing and they educated me, because you know what? You don't learn it in medical school. So I've kept 90 pounds off for actually 21 years by following that program. Do I cheat? Once in a while, but not very much. I'm far more athletic than I ever was, even in my youth.
And you have a fun little hobby.
Yes, I ever since I've been 10 years old, I like to ride skateboards, and so I've continued that hobby. And so in the last 2 years, I have a boosted board, which is electric, but I have that for because as you age, you start to lose your balance as such, and I sit a lot at work.
And it's a good core exercise too.
It is a good core. So so for balance, I ride a skateboard every day.
And you've ridden that skateboard 2,500 miles, is that right?
2,000, just over 2,000 miles.
Over 2,000 miles, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You're also a pilot.
Yes.
What else do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Well, I design airfoils for aircraft.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't, not much exercise in that.
But it stimulates your brain.
It does, and I still go to the gym. I do treadmills. I do treadmill 3 days a week, and I do physical weightlifting and working with machines, because that stimulates vitality in your body.
It's all about aging effectively, and the whole premise of the show is to redefine life, health, and happiness over age 50. So what are you doing in those departments? We talked about health, but what about happiness? What brings you joy?
What brings me joy now is the fact that I'm not large. It's easier for me to visit with people and to travel.
And where's a bucket list destination for you?
Next bucket list destination is I want to go to Russia.
Oh.
Right now is probably not the best time. Maybe
not.
Yeah, I want to go to the East.
Do you have a favorite book?
My favorite book is the Bible.
Good for you.
And the reason is because the experiences for 5,000 years are in there, so hopefully I don't have to live them myself and repeat history.
Repeat them, yes. What about a mentor? Do you have someone special that you've always looked up to or emulated?
I did. I do, and I did. He has passed away recently, and he was a college professor, and he understood me as a college student. I was believe it or not, very quiet and very shy. I'm not now. And so anyway, he guided the way for me and kind of said, hey, you have certain talents and you're a pretty smart guy. And he said, this is what you should do. And then he guided me during the way. And here I am all these many, many years later. I love practicing medicine, and I've got, I think, the best bunch of patients that anybody in this town could have.
Oh, well, thank you, Mike. We've enjoyed having you on the show today.
Enjoyed it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
And we're back with Dr. Rogers. And I wanted to ask you, I know you've enjoyed a very active Ageless Enthusiasm type of lifestyle. You love to travel, and you've recently lost weight on your hormone therapy.
Correct. So yes, I've gotten my hormones restored back to my youthful state. And it really has allowed me to live agelessly and have much energy and vitality and vigor, and just to be going, and it's just really amazing. I spend time with my parents, who are 87 years of age, and I have restored their hormones to youth as well. And I just look at different ways where we can all just enjoy our quality of life, my husband included.
So there's no age limit. It's never too late to start.
It's never too late.
Well, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us today on Ageless Enthusiasm.